Because if you think about what Moses was, right? Yes, he was a prince along with his life, but above all that, they what were they? I'm trying to remember what they were. Only enslaved. I'll come up with it later. It's been a while since I read that particular story. But no, Moses is rich, had everything. There's no real reason why he'd want to leave it behind. But God sent him anyway to tell them, let my people go. So champions can be similar to that. Just if someone wants to be of a different religion, like for instance, Fate. Fate's character started as a Nord. He believes in the Christ God. Met him.
Yeah.
So to that degree, you know, being a champion doesn't mean they start off believing in God, but they definitely will finish believing in God. Hello, Grandma.
You have fun?
Yeah, a little drive to ease the spirit.
Yeah.
Watched my buddies play Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
GB. Alright, I just entered the house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'll pass my grandma.
Yeah.
Here's my little kitty, baby.
Well, like I guess, like yeah, it's kind of true because like even Mud's character, he eventually became a champion now himself, technically, and like Fate succumbed to. Like I mean, I didn't push him into it, right? But he became one anyways. Yeah, maybe he had a bad motive, but he became one nonetheless. So it's like
it was the Israelites. It was the Israelites he was freeing. That's what Moses was doing. Yeah. Sorry, I was still on the track thought of Moses and who he was freeing.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I feel like that's because like I mean I feel like defeating like a final boss or like maybe freeing the world or something that could be like one party reason, right? But also there's
Well, I mean,
some
it
kind
doesn't
of
even have to pertain to the end goal per se, right? Like, Moses was approached by God in a not so human form, and God told him, and this is after like he had found out he was adopted, this, that, and blah 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 blah. He's run off. He's trying to figure out who he is, and God comes to him and he says, "Moses, you will return, and you will command the Pharaoh to let your people go." And he goes to Moses, and Moses first doesn't believe him, but there's a fucking gust of wind basically commanding him. And when he goes there, do they first listen? No. He says, "Let my people go, or my God will smite you. He'll curse you with plagues." Right? And they said no, and they laughed. And then many plagues came upon Egypt. 10 of them, to be precise. Each one worse than the last. And if you think about kind of what each plague represented, like the frogs coming up and out of the river, that marked the death of their god of fertility, their goddess of fertility, Hecate, who has the face of a frog. When the sun was blotted out and smoke rose to the sky, that was the death of Ra, their sun god. When the river turned red with blood, it was the death of either it was Apep or it was Sobek, which is the god of the Nile and the god of chaos. Right? The locusts eating the fertile lands and covering the sky, the death of Horus. But no, there were many stages to him coming to believe in God, It wasn't just this immediate sense of, oh yeah, this talking wind, I believe it's God. Yeah, it makes it God. And not to mention, even when David had defeated Goliath, he still had many tasks he had to complete. When Samson defeated the Philistines, there were many more journeys ahead that he had to work his way through, the trials and tribulations, right? And eventually, both David and Samson fell. David, as king, he saw the wife of another man, and he wanted her. So he sent this man to the front lines, where he knew they'd die. And then he took advantage of this woman who was in grief, the loss of her husband, whom he had intentionally caused the death of. So God smote him with lightning. Samson had his strength by the prayers of his mother under the belief that he would be a true Nazarene. And the Nazarene oath means many things. One is an oath of celibacy, meaning he could not have sex. That would break his oath. He had sex a lot. A lot. But it wasn't until he had bedded a woman who had deceived him, and she cut off his hair, which was the ultimate sin. He was not to cut his hair. That he was stripped of God's strength and the gift from God. And how did that go? He was enslaved by the Philistine, taken in the night. No one heard or saw of him. And the last we know of Samson is he toppled the temple of Dagon after praying for one last bout of strength from God. He did not pray to God for forgiveness. He had lost faith, and in the end, he prayed for revenge. And God gave it to him. But it cost him his life. So, to a degree, not all of our heroes in the Bible, or champions, so to speak, have good endings. And not all of them started off believing in God. Even if we look at Jesus' disciples, some of them were in their late teens, some of them were in their mid 20s, some of them were about to enter their early 30s, right? When he came to them, they were Jews, they were fishermen, farmers, or peasant people, right? And he said, "Come with me, I will show you the way." And he took these otherwise strangers, these young men, and he took them and he made them into 12 disciples. And they didn't start off immediately believing, oh, Jesus, our rabbi, he he is one with God. No, they didn't start off believing in that. They had faith in him and his connection to God, yes, but it wasn't as deep as knowing he was the Son of the Father. But at the end, they all died with him. Even Peter, who denied him 3 times, eventually he died, and he should be in heaven with Jesus. So to that degree, right, there is nothing that says that the champion has to start with a faith in God or belief in Christianity. But regardless of what their starting faith is, it is entirely likely that they will convert, either to the mid or end of their story.
Okay. So let me ask you this. What do you think the purpose of a champion in my world is supposed to actually be?
The fight against the forces of evil, the devil, those who would corrupt the word of God and who would use God's image to deceive or manipulate the masses. Like, for instance, when the church had become corrupt, entered the Crusades, which, as you know, God does not condone murder, though he condones killing, because there's a difference between killing rightfully and murder. And in the Crusades, it was not killing, it was murder. So, from what we know, the priests and the popes and the bishops, they said, "We will absolve you of these sins of murder, but go now and conquer the Holy Land and bring to us our Holy Land, for it truly and rightfully belongs to us." They were lying. They could not absolve them of those sins, for they had already broken their faith. You see the problem? But it doesn't have to be as deep as like a corruption in the church or something like that. But there's a lot of ways it could eventually go down. The point being is if you want to find out what you think the champion should be, because again, this is less about when you ask me about do you think there's too many limitations on character creation? Remember how I said I think it feels really strict, but I encourage you that if you think giving more character classes as an option would go against your lore and you're trying to portray in story right, that you shouldn't compromise that and create more classes or allow more classes. That's why. It's at the end of the day, it's your story you're designing for them to enjoy. But you have to enjoy what you're creating as well. You're the DM. It is a passion that is shared. Okay? So I guess the best advice I could give is if you're trying to figure out what a champion is for you and what you want your story to be like, look to the Bible. Think of the stories that you liked reading and that you like hearing about in Sunday school or when you were reading the Bible. Think to those, go and read them, and draw from them the inspiration that you desire. Let it guide you.
That's good. No, that's true.
I believe God will show you the way.
Yeah. Sometimes I just like. No, that's good. Yeah, sometimes I'm just like these are deep questions, I guess. Like, like
no doubt.
I don't know, like. Yeah.
I don't doubt it's going to be a deep question. But I have faith you'll make the right choice and that you will figure out what it is you want to create. Sorry for the background noise. My grandma's watching TV and I'm grabbing stuff from the living room. It's currently 13 minutes. I need to find my glue.
See on Sunday?
Yeah.
I've been pretty controlled at synagogues, despite the fact that
Me too.
one was crime scene. I formed the task force of detectives working with our major case.
There it is.
And we appreciate that. So I understand.
Grandma,
You are taking out a
why do you have plates on the floor? I'll ask her later.
500
No, I'll just take care of it and alert her to it. Grandma.
Respect to
Grandma.
To you.
There are paper plates on the floor. I'm going to go throw them out.
Thank you.
Okay. Try not to leave them again if you can. I'll also take this plastic bottle right here. Okay. Takes care of that.
Stressing the statement that we will continue to fully support the NYP.
I'm going to put my two legs.
Oh, I would agree as we are going to continue to generously despite that.
Okay.
Pretty much anyone thing.
Fred, we seem to want to make this us versus you. It's not.
So, I guess I have a question for you.
Sure.
What do you want your champions to be like? Like, how do you perceive them as what their purpose might be?
That's a good question.
Are they religiously more important or less important to that of a figure of the church, someone who has gone through seminary, become a priest, and various other things?
Yeah. Well, I think I guess originally I feel like the purpose. I think maybe because I gave like some kind of like destiny. I guess like there's some kind of a destiny beyond the world that they. I don't know. Either they're called or they. Yeah. There's some like maybe like God has some purpose that He uses them for.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good question though. Yeah. Or I guess because like I guess they're kind of like, supposed to be like heroes. I guess. Because I guess ultimately like a hero is to fight the villains. I guess.
Right.
They're like
So
they're like like an elite person in the world, I guess, compared to like the
okay.
common folk.
So they're handpicked by God versus how the church has to kind of designate it themselves. Explains why they have a crucifix on their body. But
Yeah.
with that being the case, considering how you described it to me that they're born with that symbol, to a degree that means their story is predicted, right? So even if they don't start as someone following faith, you could easily have it to where eventually they become a follower of Christ in that story. You just got to inform the people who are getting involved that it's, while they're not trying to force a religion down their throat, the reality is it is a Christian sermon, right? So having heavy influences in the actual like role play and how the story develops, things like that, makes sense. It's not really much of an argument they can have defend themselves from it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Maybe I gotta find a way to word it then. So I'm just trying to think. Yeah, like.
And keep in mind, if you are the leader of the server, right? If you want
Yeah.
to put it a certain way, and if they don't want to participate in that degree, they don't have to. You don't have to accept them. You're not required to. You don't have to bend
Yeah.
your rules just to get a wider audience. There are people who will want what you have to offer, and people who won't.
It's true.
Always seek to surround yourself with your target audience. They are the main priority. They are your goal. They are who you are trying to story write for. Other people want to participate and enjoy it. That's cool. They can. That, and it's clear. It's a good thing to understand that to a degree. The most we got to go off of is the Bible, right? Unless God comes and speaks to us directly, there's no way we could get it 100% right. This is supposed to be your own kind of story, your own fictional universe, right? So having heavy influence of Christianity while still allowing some fantastical aspects isn't particularly a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's all up to what you want for the story, how you want it to develop, and what form of differences you want to allow, right?
Huh. Yeah, that's true.
For me, my campaigns, though you have never gotten to experience one, are all inspired by various battles that have actually taken place within history. So, when it comes to an actual like wide battlefield conflict, if there's things going on, I will try to create a cinematic kind of experience at times. But it's more like we're working in the background to make that shit possible in my campaigns. Things like that. It takes inspiration from genuine articles of history. Right.
Sure. Okay.
So
Yeah, it's true. I don't know much about your campaigns really either. So.
if you've never gotten to experience them, I'm kind of sorry for that. But hey, come Wednesdays, you're gonna get to
That's
issues.
true.
I gotta figure out what battle I want them, like what historical kind of arc I want to follow. Right. Like, do I want it to be according to the Holy Roman Empire? What period do I want to follow? Which military conflicts do I want to include? Never know. That, and part of what makes things like this so fun is leaving kind of room to spare for your players to surprise you, right? Because that's what makes games like this beautiful is you don't have 100% control of how the story goes or what it evolves into. Well, in fact, you have virtually none. So you get to see the creativity and the evolution of their creativity within the player, as well as share something that you yourself find enjoyable.
Sure.
Catch my drift?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess because I even kind of left this Act 2 of my game open a little bit, then a player made a big decision. It kind of caused the game to go a certain direction. So
Yeah.
that was interesting.
You want to hear an age-old tip, one DM to the next?
Sure.
I once got asked, how do you balance encounters? My answer is, you don't. It's either too strong and you kind of figure out how they can survive it if you want them to survive it, right? Or if you're really wanting to kill them, I do a thing. If you've noticed in my rules, there's an Avernus location where they get sent to hell if they die, like a total party kill, right? And then they have to fight their way through 3 levels of hell just to, or 3 levels of a dungeon in hell, just to kind of come back to life. And the end result is, well, their items have likely been taken and sold or put into storage for later use against other heroes, things like that, right? And it creates this way that's like death is not entirely permanent unless they want it to be.
Huh. Okay.
But I do, big thing is like you have complete control. Like you can choose to spare them from overpowered encounters. You can even bullshit your way through half of it if you really want to, right? Because I'll be honest with you, it was like if I want them to win, they'll win. If I want them to lose or to fall back, I'll force them to choose that option, right? Because I can do that. That is a possibility. Overwhelming odds versus the chance to survive, they're going to take the chance to survive.
Huh. That's true. Yeah, I guess maybe I do need to have more influence of maybe watching or talking to more DMs too. Like that could help.
Yeah.
I guess this is my first like merry-go-round, you call it. So it's like it's a little of experience for me. So
For once, it's your first rodeo. Don't worry. Everyone makes mistakes. Even seasoned DMs aren't ready for the shit their players will pull.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind, as the DM, you have the right to say no.
So wait, so like, what do you think the benefit of me saying no to somebody would be?
I mean, it depends on what you're saying no to. Think this way: the word yes can serve as a sword for both you and the player. An ability to kind of improvise and figure things out and enjoy the game. The word no is also a shield or things like that, as long as it doesn't go against. If, for instance, a lot of the times if it's not clarified in the actual spell or how it functions, it is entirely up to the DM to decide whether or not they can use it that way or can't. Right? For instance, there are a lot of spells that don't require line of sight, range. Things where, like in the old books, they would use it to spawn something inside of somebody, freeze their lungs, things like that, fill it with water. Really, really crazy shit. And you, as a DM, have the right to say, I'm not going to allow that, right? Or if you really want to see what they come up with and see how it works, you can say, describe what you're doing and let's see. Because that keeps the door open, but it allows you the opportunity that if it doesn't make sense enough to you or how it would function, you can still say no.
True. True.
But you are in charge of the story development, not the player. The player is in charge of how they enter the story and walk around evolving it. Story can't progress if the players just stay in one spot, but it also doesn't have to go according to a select storyline. Storyline can exist, and there can be side quests and things that are unrelated to the story that they do, right? That don't particularly affect the story.
Interesting. Yeah. Huh. So what do you think? Okay, so like I know these are just kind of like hypothetical questions. Like what do you think what draws people to want to play these kind of games then, I guess, is the other type of question.
The freedom to be something or not, I guess. At least for me, that's kind of a coded question because depending on the player, it can change, right? For me, what I like about playing D&D as the DM is I get to play all these different kinds of characters, these beings with other backstories, right? That I either get to experience, don't get to experience, get to put into play, don't get to put in play. But regardless as to who it is, I get to develop some kind of creature that is entirely unique and not myself, right? Same goes for as a player. As a player, I get to play this. I get to be something I'm not. I get to pretend to escape from my life for a moment and just be with friends.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess there must be some major appeal and draw. Like I mean, a lot of people play it too, and a lot of people are always looking for a group. So it's like, it's I do think there's definitely something there, like something really deep. So there's something really like special about it. I feel like at the end of the day. Well, if there wasn't, then like no one would play it. I feel like too. So
Yeah. If it wasn't fun, nobody would touch it. Sorry, I'm smoking my pipe.
Oh, okay. Huh. So, like again, like here's another like probably completely different like type of question. So, do you feel like maybe like it makes a person like a player or a game master almost feel like a deity or something? Is that like a draw, I guess, to like RPGs? Is that one of the reasons people like doing it?
You're really taking the knife and twisting it. I was not ready for that question. Yes, to a degree, I have met friends of mine who also do this, right? I've met many people who enjoy being a game master or a dungeon master because, to some semblance, it's empowering, right? To effectively be able to decide the fate of these and these cases. It's enjoyable, right? For me, that's less so the case. I don't really see myself as because to the degree, yes, in that circumstance, according to the D&D table, the GM is God, right? But that's just because it's fiction, right? It's a release. In real life, we still have just about as much power as the next guy.
It's true. It's true. I guess maybe that's also the appeal of Magic, then. I guess too, you can just do kind of like literally anything, like an unlimited power. I guess technically.
The appeal of Magic is it's not real. It's some form of power. It's fictitious. It's people like the idea of dragons because it means there's something cool and something they've never seen before, right?
It's true. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe yeah. Like I've kind of questioned some of these things, like why I'm so resistant to magic, I guess. But
This pipe is too small. The smoke just straight in my nose.
oh,
I need my big pipe back. It's in there, but I'm testing if it burns slower in this one.
yeah.
That's the problem. The wind's blowing to the left. I'm facing to the right, so the wind blows in my face. Back the smoke.
Yeah. Hmm. Oh, these are just interesting questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe like I question maybe if it's like really a good or bad decision whether I restrict magic. It's like, I mean, sometimes it's like the point of like D&D. I feel like that I'm taking
The
that
point,
wonderful thing out of it.
it's the point of fantasy in general is to have something that isn't attached to the real world. Nobody wants, and I'm just kind of leveling with you. Nobody wants to pretend what they already are. All right, like I don't want to go into a game and pretend to be a pharmacy technician because my real life is I'm a pharmacy technician, right? So
Yeah.
to me, that's not interesting. It's not entertaining. It's not enjoyable. Now, if there were like fictitious things like magical herbs or some form of magic that I can perform through these herbs, right? Through these chemicals and these plants, right? That's cool, right? If I were playing, for instance, I'm a pharmacy technician, right? Which is effectively the equivalent of what a plague doctor apothecary was. It was an herbologist and it was a uncertified doctor, right? They weren't real doctors to that degree. They had too little knowledge and understanding of the world and the things they used. And it put itself out. But find it fun, right? Like, oh, yep, here I go. I arrive. The DM describes you arrive at the grocery chain Walmart. We'll call it Wally World for fictitious reasons. You arrive at Wally World. You reach the back rooms where you are going to clock in. What do you do? And I say, I clock in and I get my shift started. I go over to the ADI or the ASI, right? The automatic dispensing unit, right? The ADU, things like that. And then I start taking these bulk bottles and repackaging them into blister packs and things like that. That's not going to be fun for me. Realistically, I'm not going to enjoy working in my game.
Yeah.
But if it's like you arrive at the scene, you find that in this tent there are so many people with various ailments, poison, sicknesses, curses, diseases of all kinds. You have certain herbs that may be able to help. What do you do? I would like to roll to see what there is that I can cure, right? What do I have that treats the various illnesses? What are they suffering, right? I'll have more fun doing that because it's not like, oh, here's a pill. Take this 2 times, or take this once every 4 hours, 2 times a day, right? That's not gonna, right.
Yeah.
Like take this by mouth as needed for pain. I'm not gonna. That's not gonna be fun.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let me ask you this question. I think I probably asked you it before, but I'll ask you again. So the players who have chosen to stay in my game and they keep coming back, right? Because I feel like they wouldn't keep coming back if they didn't find something of value in it.
Yeah.
So I know that I've restricted magic. Why do you think that players still like my world, even though like I really didn't let them have magic for the longest time?
Character creativity. Mud,
Creativity?
yes, he's playing Mud, right? And it's kind of like a self-insert, but Mud's still got things that separate him. Like he can turn into a fucking bear. He can turn into animals and things like that, right? He
Yeah.
has certain abilities that he can choose to exert into the world that are not natural to real life, right? That's interesting. As a paladin, right? I can just put my hands on somebody and heal them of their injuries. Right? And that's to a degree. It's the fantasy aspect. There's even if you play a self insert, you still have abilities that remove you because you didn't remove. You restricted certain forms of magic, what they can be utilized for, how they function, right? You didn't say there's no magic at all, right? And all you're doing is playing these characters. And even if you did, right? The reality is, if that were the case and there was no magic and it was just the primary player classes, right? Like fighter, barbarian, I guess non-magic form rangers and things like that, right? Paladins without the ability to use lay on hands or any of their spells, right? They would still design a character that isn't just them and who they are and following the life that they had, right?
Okay. Okay, it's like I know these are deep questions. Like, do you think maybe because I say no so often that makes people actually like want to play my game technically too?
I would not.
Not.
I would say it would not. A lot of the time it's kind of a letdown when I can't be able to do certain things. For some of them it's like I can see why. For others it just feels like it's kind of limiting. At least for me.
Okay. Hmm. 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 Interesting. That's fair. That's a fair argument. It's just I don't know, just random questions. But
I bet it feels empowering to you though.
yeah,
Am I wrong?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe like on some levels, like yeah, like sometimes I feel almost like a little bit guilty and like terrible, like I don't let people do something. But I kind of feel good occasionally, sometimes at the same time. Then maybe it's like a double edged, right? It's like
I'll put it this way. I will say that your D&D is an acquired taste, but clearly you wouldn't have people if it wasn't a taste at all, right? People
yeah,
wouldn't join your sessions if all they thought was, "Oh, this is going to limit me. This isn't going to be fun." And they didn't to some degree enjoy it. And they certainly wouldn't come back if that were the case, right?
yeah.
So,
Well, I feel like maybe
clearly
so.
you're doing
This is
something
something
right.
maybe this is something I found personally. I don't know if other people find it. So because I limited like the magic, but I still like it's like you're still a hero or an adventurer. You still have like powers and abilities. I think it's like
Mhm.
kind of like it's like you have the ability to like kind of play this world and like it's like trying to find all these special alternative methods of achieving an outcome without without having access to this like immense like superpower, I guess. You have to
Yeah,
you have to go, yeah, you have to figure out how to play the game, do things, You're kind of limited, but like you still have a lot of options, I guess. It's like,
exactly. You're not limited to such a degree that you're just playing real life, right? The other thing to understand is I feel like if this were just real life, it's got a fantasy in the time frame of the medieval era, right? And to
yeah,
be fair, there are a lot of people who reenact actual battles that had occurred during those times that do that because they enjoy that. History buffs like myself, right? LARPers will go out and they'll interact and pretend they're in some battle that took place, like the Crusades or shit like that, right? And
yeah,
there's no magic. There's just weapons and fighting your fellow bro, you know, pretending he's the enemy. And to that degree, right, there's a fantasy aspect because you're not playing. Oh, I'm not Keegan Burke of, the United States of America, just working a 9 to 5 and hoping that to some degree when I die, I did the right thing and I make it to heaven, right? There's none of that. There's, okay, I am. We'll go for an extreme answer. I'm John Wilkes Booth, assassinator of Abraham Lincoln. I'm on the run. I'm currently trying to escape the military that's trying to capture me and bring me to justice. I'm Adolf Hitler held up in my bunker, right? The Allied powers have just broken through Berlin and they're swarming me from all sides. There's nowhere to escape, right? I'm Vlad the Impaler, and I had just defeated these enemies of mine. To make an example of them, I have their heads on pikes for the enemy nations to see. Top of the hill, silhouetted by the sun. I'm Ragnar Lothbrok, sailing into the shore from the open sea, with the heads of my enemies dangling from ropes, swords in hands, and my brothers at my back. Right. So there's joy to be found in that versus hi, my name is Keegan. How may I take your order?
oh, yeah,
Right?
okay,
You see what I'm getting at here? Is like
yeah,
even to the most basic degree, there is this freedom of I'm not this one thing I've been all my life. I can escape from that and I can enjoy being something else. I could even just be myself, but in a different period of time, or I could be Keegan Burke. I'm serving in Ragnar Loth. We're currently invading, Wessex, and we've come, or I'm Keegan McLaughlin with the Scottish Picts, and we're fighting against the Romans using guerrilla warfare from the trees, right? Like, it
yeah,
doesn't have to entirely be fantasy, but I'm not myself. Genuinely, I'm not the same exact person. I might have the same personality, I might have the same looks, but it's a different time, it's a different character, a different being. And to a degree, that's freeing.
okay,
I'm Keegan Burke. I'm a crusader fighting for the Holy Land, right?
yeah,
I'm not
okay.
Keegan Burke. How may I take your order, or what brings you to this pharmacy at this time? What pill do you need? Right? What's your date of birth? Right? That's
Yeah,
not that's not. It's like hello, name, date of birth. Uh, I'm Mitchell, or no, I'm Rachel. I was uh, April 10th, 1947. I'm here for my Alzheimer's medicines. Right? Okay, let me call up the insurance. There seems to be a need for prior authorization. I will call them and I will see if you're still covered by it, right? Has there been any changes to your card, like to your insurance plan recently? Things like that. That's not going to be fun. It's going to be boring shit.
It's true. Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's a good argument. That's a good argument. No, because I do see the advantage of stuff like escapism. Like even like when I was like the game master, just like doing like the VC chat for a while. It's like I escaped my life for like a handful of hours, and it was like it's like a nice thing sometimes to escape your life.
They call me Kermit the Frog. Now, one of the funny things I would experience is in a most recent campaign that wasn't part of yours. I'm playing a grung bard, and I sell drugs. So I'm Kermit the Frog selling weed and shit like that. Right? Which, as you know, I am neither a frog nor am I like an illegal substance dealer for criminals of the underworld. I legally trade in drugs, right? But they're for people who need them. And I'm not the pharmacist, but the pharmacy technician, meaning all I do is the clerical work.
Huh.
Can't counsel patients or, things like that. It's not my, what do they call it? I was just learning about it. It's not my, I'll come up with the phrase later. It's not my field of. Yeah, I'll figure it out later. Sunday, I will be, before the session with my buddies, I will be heading to a park to LARP with some buddies, other buddies of mine, around 2 p.m. Which will be fun.
Okay.
I'm going to take a sword and beat people's shins with it. That's the thing. Like, I did 2 years in harness weapon, full suit of armor, beating the shit out of each other. I have a fist of real weapons, and I always like the polearm, right? Because what I'd do is I'd keep my distance and I'd abuse their fucking legs. Because I'm an asshole. If we're going off of like landing attacks and point system, I'm gonna go for the thing that's the hardest to defend, and that's your fucking feet and your shins, right? Because they're so low to the ground. And I'm gonna abuse that distance all fucking day. It is the thing in LARP that's so much easier because it's always a point system if you're going into combat, right? And once you've been there long enough, which I have to do to be able to use pole arms, I can move from a long sword, which is boring and basic, right? And I can keep my distance and target their legs because the only rules they usually have is don't target the face, right? And if they trust you not to target the face, here's a two-handed weapon, go ham. And I'm gonna be slamming that shit into people's thighs. Like, oh, you're trying to close the distance? Oh, Charlie horse.
Oh.
What was that? I can't hear you. What does the dirt taste like?
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm over here like, what's the show spiel, Mr. Diva? Oh, no. Well, it's like, it's, ich liebe dich. Give me a note. Tomorrow, I don't know if I'm going to be in a session because I think majority of the group is called out. The Saturday
really?
may just be a boring day where I wait and hope I get like a text or an email from one of the places I've applied to. You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I was thinking at some point maybe I could try doing a one shot tomorrow, if you were interested, or other people, like other people. Well, I have a couple ideas for some like one shot, I guess, adventures or mini adventures, but well, like I had this idea because like I was trying to mess with all this faith stuff, right? Maybe I can
Yeah.
try making some like little school or some little, I don't need to call it like a miracle, I don't know, like a miracle school or something, or I guess maybe like a handful of players get together and just, I don't know, role play or practice these I don't know, what are they called, orisons, I think, or like the miracles, and just mess around with some stuff. Um, I I have no idea how to do it, but it would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure if people want to mess around. I think honestly, I feel like there probably is a bunch of people who like to play it.
More than likely.
Well, what do you think the other players think about this stuff? Like me using miracles instead of spells.
It doesn't really affect them that much because again, the only thing you've really changed is kind of the lore aspects of like how spells function and stuff. So it's not like you've been too restrictive of what spells they can use, just what classes, because there are various classes, for instance, the Warlock, which you've designed kind of an alternative counterpart to, right? Where they literally get their power from a deal with the devil or a devil of some kind, right? Which doesn't, let's be real, when you're trying to make the various characters champions, I actually did have a thought, though, which is that the Warlock could work as a champion, right? Because what that would do is that would entail that their mission as a champion, to a degree, is to get their soul returned to them, and by believing in Christ and seeking to do right by God and accomplish the goals set upon them, to an extent, they can be saved. They can receive their soul once more, and they can, actually, because most Warlock packs aren't like, oh, your soul belongs to them. It's like there's a deal in place. And to the degree your powers come from that contract, and if you break that contract, your soul belongs to them, and now you are forfeit of your life and things like that. You're their pawn and stuff, right? And while they, to a degree, have a various kind of like thing that they need you to do, it would be interesting to see a champion where it's like they made a pact with the devil, right? And now they're trying to free themselves of that pact through service to Christ, and they're trying to redeem themselves and repent, right? That's a cool concept.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting ideas. Or I guess like the argument could be that I could allow for like exceptions to some of my rules, maybe, right? That'd be like reasonable, right? If there's a good
Yeah.
argument, maybe. Then I mean, like I'm restrictive, but I'm open minded a little bit more. Maybe that would be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. Like it's not, to a degree, you haven't created something that's so, restrictive that it's not entirely D&D anymore, right? It's still D&D. It's just set, right? in a Christian world, separate from the canonical worlds and lands of D&D, like Dungeons and Dragons. And it's your own thing, and that's partially what makes D&D so fun, right? Is that you can create your own worlds that just kind of follow the rules and spell lists and the things that D&D allows. You can design an entirely fictitious like country or continent, and you can follow that. You're not required to just follow, oh, we're at the Sword Coast and we're doing that story. You can make your own story. You can make your own kingdoms with their own laws and your own faith. That's partially what makes it so beautiful. Is it's not set in stone.
Huh. It's true. It's true.
I do have an application.
That's some good points. Good points there. Yeah. Well, what percentage of players do you think play by the D&D like official like story canonical world versus do their own custom thing?
Sorry, repeat that.
Well, like what percentage of players or like game masters use the official like D&D canonical lore versus doing their own custom kind of thing?
I mean, I if you Beyond the Witcherlight, those weren't originally books and things like that. And you can actually look at several YouTubers. Like, for instance, I think they follow the Pathfinder 2E stuff, but the world of EO, right? And then there's the world of EO. I think is D&D, but kind of utilizing a similar thing to the Pathfinder 2E. The Legends of Evantris is a YouTube group as well as like, for D&D, and their campaigns weren't originally just D&D, right? Like, to a degree, they made their own stuff and they put their own spins on it. I'm part of a group, my Saturday campaign group. It's entirely set in a non D&D world. It's called Sins of Sprigonia, and it takes place. Like, they don't use D&D currencies like gold and things like that. They use these things called butterfly coins, and it's like the goddesses. There's only two gods, and one of them's a false goddess called Sprigonia, who has intentionally sought to push out the true god, which is Trialagos, to kind of like subvert usurp the throne and take it as their own because they're angry and grieving of their husband, right? So to that degree, it's like they're not. It's not entirely just set and stuck. You have your own thing.
Okay. Hey, let me just use the restroom. I'll be right back. Let me know if you want to keep talking. We can. Otherwise, let's just give me a minute. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back.
Hi, back. I'm dead.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well. Yeah, like maybe I should start trying to create some more stuff, some more like like fantastical stuff. I guess like
Yeah.
I don't know.
I support it. I mean, the thing is, like, never be too set in stone, never be too willing to compromise, right? Like, there is a perfect balance. Find what you enjoy and what others enjoy and create the perfect mold of it, right? Of both, right? It doesn't have to be all one thing or all the other. And if you don't want to add more, like, classes, right? Or make the other classes playable, you don't have to, right? Like the game so
Yeah.
far, it seems everyone enjoys it. I enjoy it, so it's clearly an enjoyable thing. But
Yeah.
don't be too afraid to grow upon it either. Well, anyways, I
Yeah.
gotta go.
Oh, okay.
Great hanging out. I'm gonna hang out with my grandma now.
Hey, it's good. It's good talking with you. Good talking with you. Oh.